this is James from Rocket Punch Radio, and today, as part of our yearly celebration of March of the Mecha, I am bringing to you today the man, the myth, the legend, author Jake Bible. Hello, Jake. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited to have you here today. As part of my preparations for our yearly event here, obviously judging by the name Rocket Punch Radio, we're big fans of giant stomping robots. So
Awesome.
When I found out that I'm a listener of the Dead Robot Society, when I found out that you had just released a book called Fighting Iron, I was all about that and just had to talk to you about the book. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, geez. I have been writing full-time since 2013, so I do it as a living. I've been writing professionally since 2008, and I actually podcast for free my first novel, Dead Mech, which is a mashup of zombies and mechs, and then zombies in mechs. And so I put that out in 2008, and that was right before Kindle started. So it was really podcasting your novel for free was kind of the way to digitally distribute it. Emphasis on the free part. Mm-hmm. So that was a learning curve, but now I make a living with my writing, so that's good. I learned the curve.
So you were really kind of on the digital forefront of the new great frontier that we're all exploring now.
Yeah, I was kind of part of the second generation of podcast novelists. The first generation, including people like Scott Sigler mm-hmm. and Mur Lafferty, who both have great careers now in writing. And I started off, in the same generation of podcasters as like Paul Cooley mm-hmm. From Dead Robot Society, and we kind of came up together in this world. And it really was right before the Kindle launched. So we were all trying to figure everything out together.
Yeah, well, and I've been, a big reader of that whole up-and-coming generation of the really early Kindle readers. I've got my first generation Kindle sitting on my desk. I still use it as often as I get the chance. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Fighting Iron? Just, give us a feel for the book.
Fighting Iron really was, I wanted to get back to mechs because I'd done that in my Apex Trilogy, starting with Dead Mech. But I didn't want to do so much the post-apocalyptic, zombie stuff and things like that. I wanted to kind of mix it up. And, I am a huge fan of spaghetti westerns. And the man, Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, the lone mech just going across the landscape really would be kind of perfect to kind of mash up with that whole Western feel. So that's really what I did. I wanted to create a far future mech Western.
Excellent.
And sometimes my ideas tend to take detours and go off the rails. But this one, from start to finish, I set out to do exactly what I wanted to do. And gained a ton of new readers and fans for it. It just turned out to be a great, fun novel. So.
Well, I can tell you definitely converted me as a fan. There are not nearly enough books on the subject out there. I'm going to be working on my own here, hopefully pretty soon. But just your combat scenes, especially about midway through the book, the first time you really get to see Clay actually step into a mech and do his thing, that was just fantastic. I really liked that. So, I'm actually a Western writer primarily myself as well. I do a lot of Western horror and that sort of thing. So clearly, you also had me on board with that. So the book, you said yourself, it's kind of a Western sci-fi. How did you come up with that mashup in particular?
It really, because of the mech stuff I had written before, which takes place kind of in, more your post-apocalyptic wasteland, that imagery is very similar to spaghetti westerns, just nothing but dust blowing and sand and tumbleweeds and just desolation. So that was really, it was just kind of revisiting that imagery in my head, but I wanted to play with different culture. I wanted to play with a different, societal makeup. Mm-hmm. And that's really kind of, how it all came about, was because I do love mechs. I just absolutely, love them. I'm going to be writing a new series here pretty soon, getting back to it. And so I just, but I wanted to do something different, and I love mashing things up. I just really do. Like I said, my first novel was mechs and zombies, that kind of thing. So I would just really wanted to kind of mash this up and still hold true to the Western genre.
Yeah.
I wanted the mech to be an extension of Clay, the main character, as much as a horse is the extension of the cowboy in the Western. But then also it's a mech, so I have a whole AI co-pilot in there. So there's the sidekick and the horse wrapped into one thing.
I loved that. Gibbons was great.
Yeah, and it really, that was my goal, was to stay true to the Western feel, but still totally make it a mech novel.
Well, mission accomplished, man.
Well, thank you.
So let's talk giant robots. What were some of your inspirations or your favorite, kind of your mech media and westerns that you went into with this? Obviously you've mentioned the spaghetti westerns and Sergio Leone and those guys, I'm sure. Definitely that. That was my, main inspiration for the tone of the book. I first, became just enamored with mechs as a kid with like Shogun Warriors, and the big giant robots and that kind of stuff. I loved the whole, Japanese culture of mecha, and it just fascinated me. And then as I got older, I was playing some role-playing games with friends in high school, but everybody wanted to play Middle-earth role-playing and Dungeons & Dragons. They wanted to do the epic fantasy stuff. And I'm like, there's this thing called Mech Warrior and Battletech, and come on, guys. And they're like, no. So I never got to play that. It was one of those things where it just frustrated me. And then I got out of role-playing games for so long, and finally I was just like, you know what? I can write my own damn mech story. I can play in that universe myself. And, that was my first trilogy, and then I wanted to get back to it because mechs have, it's almost insidious in how it's kind of come into the sci-fi culture you see in things. They tend to be the smaller ones, like in Avatar. There's the smaller mechs that are in there, not the big 50-foot ones and things like that. Yeah.
And here and there, and then Pacific Rim came out, and so you had the big giant mechs, and I wanted to get back out in there, and I wanted to, I don't know what totally inspired me to do mech in a Western so much as I just really wanted to get back in a mech. And I wanted to do something different that I hadn't done before. So, really influence-wise, there's, just all of, mecha, culture and the whole genre.
Excellent.
But like you said, it really is the Sergio Leone and all those spaghetti westerns. That was the tone that drove, Fighting Iron. So
it's funny that you bring up, the role-playing culture, Mech Warrior, Battletech, that sort of thing. I came in, I was also a role player. I would imagine at this point, if you asked about 90% of genre writers, we're all going to admit to role-playing when we were a kid. But I had a friend who came from a really super religious family. We wanted to do Dungeons and Dragons and all of the, the medieval.
Right.
But we couldn't because of his family's convictions. So we found this other thing based on a computer game that I was really, the other way around I learned later. But, I went from the Mech Warrior video games to discovering Battletech and Mech Warrior and all of that stuff. And so we were deep into that, kind of as a reverse situation of what you'd cited.
Well, there you go. Perfect.
You'd hinted that your books are all kind of in a shared universe. How does Fighting Iron fit into your other series like Suburbia and the Apex Trilogy?
Well, Suburbia would be the start. That is your classic Romero-esque zombie apocalypse. Just happens to take place in a subdivision where the HOA still rules with an iron fist. So plenty of good Americana satire there. And I just started kind of building it. There's a total of 7 books in that series. And when I realized at one point that I was going to kind of take the main characters on a road trip, I had an idea of where I wanted to go. Because really in Dead Mech, which is set hundreds of years later, there's a place, called the Stronghold, which is kind of, in a way like NORAD and that kind of thing, in the middle of Colorado.
Okay.
It's no longer called Colorado in Dead Mech and the Apex Trilogy. It's a whole other thing going on. But slowly, as I'm developing these things, I started realizing, I can kind of connect the dots. I can actually make this work. And so I connected Suburbia to Dead Mech, and with a small little series of my Dead Team Alpha, which is like 100 years after Suburbia stuff, but then a few hundred years before Dead Mech. So connected all those together, made that all work. And then I realized, of course, there's plenty of future still going on. And I didn't necessarily want to do a sequel series to my Apex trilogy. I like how, the finality of it. I like how things can stand on their own. People can hop into that series without having to read Suburbia, without having to read Fighting Iron or anything like that. And that's what I wanted with Fighting Iron too, is someone to be able to hop into it and not have to read any of the stuff before. Okay. It makes no difference. That's just ancient history. So really Fighting Iron takes place hundreds of years after the Apex trilogy.
Okay.
Societies rise and fall, as we know in our world. Civilizations can grow to massive proportions and then basically almost disappear. And we think we're such, an amazing civilization now and all that. And it's like, I'm pretty sure Rome thought the same thing too. So that's just kind of where I came from was, history repeats itself. Yeah. So it can constantly reboot. And that's what that's how I did it with Fighting Iron. So just by a couple, bits of information here, there, you can follow those dots, connect those dots and follow that thread all the way from the, zombie apocalypse in a, suburban HOA all the way up to a far future mech Western. So
I do remember you mentioning, somewhere in the book, it was just like an offhanded line about, multiple apocalypses, having gone on. So I did catch that when you'd mentioned it. So, okay. All right. Just as a real quick side question here, I gotta ask you, in the book, people frequently use the invective Pikachu's ghost. Is there a story there?
Nope. No story whatsoever.
You latched onto that and liked the sound of it?
I just latched onto it and liked the sound of it.
Okay, that's good.
You just, some things just, I don't know. It's just fun to take, names and cultural references from things and just kind of blop them along here and there. And that one was just fun. I just hope somebody would laugh at it, and I'm sure a couple people giggled.
Yeah, you got a chuckle out of me. So currently, right now, as I understand from your podcast writing in Suburbia, you're currently trying to shop a Suburbia screenplay to various television networks. So with Fighting Iron, if you got a chance to put together a movie or a TV show, what would be your dream cast?
Oh, geez. With Fighting Iron. That, honestly, it's there could be plenty of people. I don't even know off the top of my head. I haven't even thought about that with Fighting Iron. Wow. It would definitely, I think Fighting Iron would make more of a movie series than it would a TV series.
Yeah, I think so.
Just the way it's set up. And really, I mean, any leading man could play it who's in that 30s up to early 40s range. Of course, you got to have that kind of rugged look.
Yeah.
It's got to be someone who looks like they've been living out on the range alone in a mech for a while. I don't want to say totally Clint Eastwood look, but, something along those lines. Someone who could, stare down some bad guys with a hard look, but, can totally kick ass with a mech. It really, there could be a lot of flexibility. I think someone also they would have to be able to handle dry comedy too.
Yeah.
Because, there's definitely a lot of sarcasm, and you get Clay and Gibbons banter back and forth.
They're both pretty mouthy.
Yeah, those two, they've been living together way too long. So you got to have someone who can be stoic and silent and strong in the face of, human society, but then is just going off at the mouth when he's up in the cockpit, with his AI co-pilot. So there's a lot of, I couldn't say a dream cast. I think there's quite a few actors that could fill it. But they would definitely have to be able to hold their own on screen. There's got to be a strength there, definitely.
Yeah, I had thought to myself, we're talking Dreamcast, any time period, and I thought, a young Bruce Campbell would be really good for this role. He's just schlocky enough, and he's done the Western bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. That would be great. If we could go back in time, that would be awesome.
Just pluck him right out, pull him out before everything went down. So, there's a lot of debate in mech fan communities about Western versus Eastern mechs.
Right.
Like I'd mentioned, I was a Battletech kid, but I was also pretty deep into anime, so I've got a lot of loyalties on both sides of that bloody conflict. What I want to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the old school walking tanks with armaments enough to level a city, and 10 is the cutting edge, sleek, super futuristic flying Japanese mechs, how do you prefer your mecha?
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Right smack dab in the middle. I can say that. I've watched a little of Gundam and those kinds of things, and I see the appeal with that. And then of course, your mech warrior, and I mean even some of the there's even some steampunk mech stuff out there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Westerfield wrote a whole series of this, things, I think they're called clankers.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of an alt history stuff going on there, and they're like diesel run mechs during World War I kind of stuff.
I love the World War I and the World War II stuff.
Yeah, and so, those are kind of fun, but I like it kind of right in the middle. I think for me, Pacific Rim is a little too shiny for me. I like some dirt and dents and things going on there. But then I also don't want them too blocky and clunky. They've got to reflect the athletic ability of the pilot too. So, that's why I say basically right in the middle there.
No, I'm with you. That was, speaking of Pacific Rim, my favorite one of all of them was the battered old Russian one, the Cherno Alpha. I thought that was the best looking one.
Yeah.
So you have that upcoming series that you mentioned. It's called Mech Corps. Obviously, this is going to be of interest to the audience here at RPR. What can you tell us about the new series?
Well, the new series is kind of so I can bridge a few more things. Pretty much what it is the Earth is pretty much destroyed. We have not been very good stewards of our planet. And it's finally to that point where technologically the human race can get out into the stars, has discovered wormholes, is looking for new systems to basically populate because humanity is going to be extinct very soon on Earth. And, when you get out into new systems and you start going through wormholes into a whole other parts of the galaxy and things, you're going to encounter some weird stuff. So this really is kind of, I would say, almost my homage to the Alien type Military sci-fi.
Okay.
Where it's grungy, it's dirty, it's still, real, and space exploration is still rough and tumble. But in this, they have, because I'm going to connect it, we're going to say hundreds and hundreds of years after fighting iron, maybe even 1,000 years after fighting iron. So mech technology has been around, come and gone, been around for a while. And now we've got the mech core, where they can send squadrons down onto planets to try and, terraform, take over. And of course, when they encounter the alien races, then they get to fight and have lots of bloody blowing up fun. So
that sounds great.
Yeah, that's really kind of what I'm looking at, is mechs versus aliens with infantry marines on the ground, and just all kinds of explosions and good time there. So
sign me the hell up. So, all right. If somebody is interested in checking out the man, the myth, and the legends known as Jake Bible, where should they start? What books would you recommend?
It really, I write in all kinds of genres, so it really depends on what genre people like. Of course, Suburbia, if you like post-apocalyptic zombie stuff, you can start there. If you like the mechs and zombies, Dead Mech is a great place to go to mash that up. Of course, we've been talking about Fighting Iron, and like I said, I've been designing them so you can hop in here and there. I've got more space opera stuff, and in my Salvage Merc 1 series, it's they can go to jakebible.com and read all the descriptions. I've got 40 plus novels out there, so there's a little something for everybody.
Yeah, your output is insane. I do a book maybe every 3 or 4 months, so I can't do the book a month thing.
Well, I do it for a living, so it is my job. So I have to plant my butt in that chair every day and get to work. So I know I'm definitely privileged, but I take it seriously, and at no point am I going to slow down until, maybe I've got those Hollywood bazillion dollars in my bank account. So,
well, it sounds like you've got a lead in on that, potentially.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, Jake, it has been amazing to get to talk to you. A little bit surreal after listening to your podcast for 3 or 4 months to hear your voice interacting with me directly, but it has been fantastic to get to talk to you. Thank you very much again.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll have to call you back next year once you've got Mech Cores out.
Sounds great.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye. All right. And I think that's going to do it. Thank you again very much.
Perfect. Yeah, no, like I said, I'm glad we got to work out the timing and everything. It really was. As March kept approaching, I'm like, the calendar's got more and more writing on it. This is crazy. I mean, every weekend is jam-packed, and then even the evenings.
Yeah.
And this actually turned out to be a perfect afternoon, because no one's going to get home until, like about 5:36. I was like, okay, let's do it on Thursday.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. And, hey, if you ever want to talk Westerns, like I'm a big fan.
Nice. So, yeah, definitely. Anytime.
So, great. Thank you again. And have a good afternoon, man.
All right. You too, man.
Uh-huh.
All right. See ya. Bye.
And we're back. That was a great interview, and I actually was really honored to get a chance to talk to him. I had a really good time with that. So, for our second half of our second episode of 2017's March of the Mecha, I have brought friend of the podcast, Jonathan, in to talk with us about the second season of Voltron.
And ladies, my info sales are most certainly up.
Okay. I got nothing.
Did I come on too strong there?
I got no response to that.
It wasn't for you, man.
Ladies, I always come on super strong. I'm as strong as I smell. So
bad.
We just finished off the second season of the show, which dropped just I think about a month or two ago.
Something like that, yeah. I binge watched it throughout last night, so
That's a hell of a do. So how did you feel like the second season stacked up against the first?
Let's take a little bit of a history lesson here. Okay, so the original Voltron came out in like September of 1984, which is the perfect time for me because I had just started kindergarten and everything. I was waking up to go to school, and all of a sudden this new show comes on about these giant robot lions going through space and fighting giant monsters, and I was like, this is friggin' awesome. And it was a humongous phenomenon and remains a inspiration to a lot of generations, and definitely has a special place in the heart of probably quite a few St. Louisans, since World Events Productions, the guys who created Voltron, from, spliced stuff from Japan, of course, are based in St. Louis, Missouri. Fast forward to, let's see, what was it, 1998, Voltron, the Third Dimension. I'm only going to say it sucks, because it sucks. It was very bad, very, 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 very bad. And then in 2011, we get Voltron Force, which is pretty much unremarkable other than the really, really terrible theme song. And so with that sort of track record, Voltron Legendary Defender, I have to say this is probably... It is probably the first time I have ever seen a reboot done absolutely right. And I'm talking about Ninja Turtles, Transformers, all that bullshit. Voltron Legendary Defender is the first one to get it right.
Well, it's being handled by the Avatar people, and they know their stuff as far as that goes. I think they've done a really admirable job with adapting it for modern audiences. Even me, I wasn't especially a fan of the original. It was something that passed me by as a kid. It was on too early for me to get up and watch it, and even though I really wanted to get into it when I was little, and I didn't get to see it again.
Were you even born by then?
Yeah, no, it was still on TV about the time that I was becoming aware of television.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, about the time that I was becoming aware of television, it was still on, but it was too early for me, so it passed me by. The first time that I actually got to watch it was with you guys when you started picking up the DVD sets, and
oh hell yeah!
Someone who has no nostalgic for it, that's a really hard show to watch.
Yeah, it definitely it's got some kitsch to it. It definitely does, especially when you deal with episodes where there are female characters voiced by male voice actors. That gets really rough.
Or just Swede in general. Just his accent was so bad.
He wasn't in that much of the show.
Yeah, he was in the parts that I watched, and it made me not watch them. So, like I said, it was as having no nostalgia for the show. I bounced off of it. It wasn't for me. I'm not saying it was a bad production. It wasn't for me.
I hear you.
So coming into this as a non-fan, this stands on its own merits beyond simple nostalgia.
That's the reason why it's actually a successful reboot, is that it doesn't rely so much on nostalgia.
Yeah, they've created something that can prop its own damn self up.
Exactly. So yeah, Voltron Legendary Defender is very much a reboot success story.
That goes back to my original question. How do you think the second season stacks up against the first?
To be honest, I think they're both on equal terms. I think that because you have a lot of series that deal with sophomore slumps. If you listen to the Pocket Punch about Daredevil, you'll definitely know about that sort of thing. And I do feel that there were a couple of downtimes in the second season, like that mermaid episode was really goofy.
Yeah, I think they're okay. I'll preface this by saying that I think that I felt like most of this season was filler episodes, but I also feel like it was a stronger season than the original. I feel like the stakes were higher, the drama was more intense, the fights were better, just in general. I feel like they kind of learned some lessons from last season and made everything just a little bit spicier. And I'm going to have to give MVP of Season 2 to Varkon, the mall cop.
Varkon!
That was
the mall security guard.
That was my favorite part of Season 2. But I liked that even on the silly filler episodes, even the filler episodes were directed towards completing the meta plot. This was not, and I suspect that comes in part with the fact that this is a Netflix series. They're not having to appease a network schedule in order to get their funding. They can produce what they need to produce and then just not do anything else.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's probably something else that's contributing to the series' success.
Yeah, I'd agree. There were some silly episodes. I guess, I'm trying to recall the first season, and, were there any, like, really ridiculous episodes?
There wasn't really much in the way
of...
mermaid... the mermaid episode was season 2.
Just kind of fluff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The mermaid episode kind of felt like a little bit of off-day fluff, because it was just kind of like... It was like, what, the second episode? Third, maybe?
It was pretty much the second episode. It was the second episode.
Yeah. It was basically Lance and Hunk, in an underwater world with these beautiful mermaids that, of course, Lance had a thing for. And I'm like, really? Okay. You're just that desperate.
No, that's how he do.
That's weird, man. Okay. Well, the plot was okay and everything, but just kind of the whole thing where it's like, oh, yeah, we do have that exactly what you need right here. Here's the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And it's like, it fixes everything. Yay! That was a little silly.
Probably.
But other than that though, I think that the episodes were really strong.
I like that they gave every character an episode to shine,
mm-hmm.
and I like that Lance's episode, his moment to shine, was less about him discovering what was deep inside himself and more like people just kind of like pushing him from point A to B, and just like, okay, God, Lance, just do your thing here. Okay, you're done. Okay, God, go away. He's kind of the Sokka of the episode.
Well, he did have
like,
that
Sokka
moment in
least...
the prison break.
Yeah, well, a little bit.
I really, really want that video game system that Pitch got at the mall. I'm like, where can I get one of those?
I think that was just straight up a Super Nintendo or something. I loved the Area 51 alien that's straight up selling junk from Earth.
Yeah.
I saw the Graylien with the Area 51 hat, and I started laughing.
Did you happen to notice that the cow was named after the executive producer or whatever?
I did not. I didn't know what the executive producer's name was.
But it's the first name they show in the credits.
I don't pay attention to that.
Oh boy. Okay. They mentioned the cow and everything and say its name, and then, like just a couple moments later, they roll the credits. I'm like, huh.
Okay.
What did you think of you've watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I've gone through the whole thing now.
Okay. What did you think of the last episode?
The last episode was very good. I actually thought that the action was nice, and Zarkon had the honors of having the first not completely silly-looking mech. Well, I take it back. No, I think the Robeast from the Crystal Planet, the Balmora.
The Balmora.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty cool looking.
Well, he makes a return, too, so yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Yeah, and he looked even better in the return. But Zarkon had a really badass mech.
Well, it was basically him in giant robot form.
Yeah, it was great.
So,
it was fine. It was super A-okay.
I did feel that the finale of the first season probably had a bigger twist to it.
Yeah.
Because nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, but they spent the majority of this season dealing with that twist.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it was kind of like they did have twists and everything like that, but they treated it kind of like Pidge's twist, is that you already have an idea of what's going on with Pidge. So you already...
Turns out Keith is also a girl.
No. That's weird.
And Lance is a girl.
Okay. What's Hunk?
So is Hunk.
What about Shiro?
Shiro's a man.
Too manly for that, huh? You gotta be a man. Huh. Okay. Is Koran a woman?
Well, of course, it's the mustache.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The mustache is how you know.
Oh, okay. That's how I'll... Yeah, because Princess has a mustache.
No, the princess is a man.
And yet, he's a princess.
It's in the title. Princess.
We're moving on. So...
Yeah, I thought the second episode was really good. I was irritated that that the princess didn't kill Hagar while she had the chance.
Yeah.
Like right there, you have her weakened. She's stunned. You can do it. No, you're gonna kneel. Okay, you're gonna kneel now.
Also, the fact that Hagar isn't Galra.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Which means we have yet to see a female Galra.
Maybe they don't have genders.
I don't know. I kind of think that Galra that Keith and Hunk encountered in the belly of that worm, maybe female.
Maybe.
And yeah, they do have females. I mean, obviously Keith came from somewhere.
Maybe.
Obviously his dad's not Galra.
So the thing that surprised me about Hagar is, you get the hood knocked off of her.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was going to be an old crone, and she wasn't.
Well, I mean, what does an Altarian old crone look like?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, I guess they're space elves. That's what they are.
She just happened to be a purple space elf. She's a space dark elf.
Yeah.
She's a space drow.
She's a space drow, exactly.
I'm not going to pronounce it drow. That's dumb.
Ugh. Her last line, though, I mean,
yeah.
Wow. I was like, yeah, that about sums it up, because that's the question that's been on everybody's lips ever since this show came out is, where's Lotor? We're gonna have to wait till next season to find out about Lotor.
We got to come out and say it. Shiro's gone.
Yeah. Which I'm kind of, did he like become one with the Black Lion or something?
That's my thought. And either it's like he is the Black Lion now, or it's going to be a Shinji Ikari thing, and he's living in there for the time being, and then he resurfaces later. But my bet is that Keith takes over the Black Lion, even though he seems to be really good friends with the Red Lion now.
Well, I mean, he did get to pilot the Black Lion once.
Yeah, I kind of took that to be foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Well, and in the original series, Keith takes over the Black Lion at that point too, right?
Well, he was always the Black Lion.
Okay.
Considering the teaser for this season was basically the monologue that Shiro does in the first season about, if anything ever happens to me, Keith, I want you to lead Voltron. And it's kind of like, okay. But that happened in the first episode, so I'm like, so is he going, or what? What's gonna happen? And so then they drop that on us, and it's like, oh, well, he's not dead?
He became one with the Force.
And he became one with the Force, the Lion Force.
Yeah, the Lion Force. Yeah, no, Keith is gonna take over. And do you think they're still gonna have Allura join on, or do you think they're gonna bring in a new character?
Well, who would they get to pilot otherwise? I mean,
new character.
Just get a new pilot.
Yeah, because I mean, the ship, the castle needs Karan and Allura on it.
Yeah. Well, what if the Black Lion just gains complete sentience and can control its own self?
That would be weird. That'd be crazy.
It's anyone's theory right now, because they don't really feed you too much other than he's gone.
Yeah. He's gone forever. I don't know. Yeah, that was a hell of an ending. I'm still coming fresh off of it. I finished it not even 40 minutes past.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought the season was shorter than it was, and I scheduled accordingly.
Well, it was 13 episodes.
Yeah, I just thought it was shorter, and I thought I was further along.
No, it felt about right, I think.
I stopped on Paul Blart's Space Cop last night.
It kind of is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Would you recommend Voltron Legendary Defender to people who have never seen Voltron or anything like that? Oh, let me put it this way. Would you recommend Voltron Legendary Defender to Nate?
To Nate, yes, absolutely. It's not a Japanese show.
Okay.
It doesn't carry much in the way of Japanese sensibilities beyond its aesthetic.
That is true. But, it still has, like, giant robots, fighting each other and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it does have some of the tropes.
I mean, giant robots extend to more. It's granted, it's a super robot show, which is distinctly Japanese. But, yeah, no, I would recommend this show to many people. If you're a fan of big robots, if you're a big fan of big robots punching things, there is something to like here.
Yeah, if you're a fan of science fiction action, very well thought out characters, a good storyline, lots of twists. Yeah, this is a really good show.
If you're a fan of the Avatar series, this is the same writers, this is the same production crew. It's not the same composer, unfortunately. I still think the music's a little boring.
Yeah, that's my one nitpick, is I kind of wish... I mean, it's not the Voltron Force theme, thank goodness, but it's also not the original Voltron theme, which was iconic. And I'm really kind of sad that they didn't decide to incorporate that at all in the show.
It's a little surprising, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they're just, trying to divorce themselves as much as they can from, World Events Productions, as far as that's concerned, to be like, no, we got this, guys. And it's like, Okay. But yeah, the music's okay. It's just okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's passable.
But I mean, yeah, if you're a fan of the Avatar series, I would recommend it. If you're a fan of super robot shows, I would recommend it. You know, there's something here to love for Power Rangers fans. There's something here to love for giant robot fans, sci-fi fans, even though this is more of a sci-fantasy. It's a good show. It comes with a strong recommendation from me, and I assume it does from you too. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, if you have a pulse, you should be watching this.
I don't know about if you have a pulse.
No, you
you
should. I don't care who you are. Also, they finally put out toys.
Yeah, I saw that in Target the other day. That was really cool.
Yep.
I was watching this with my wife, and we got to the part where Zarkon comes out in his mech, and she looks at that and says, "Whoa, that's a much cooler robot than Voltron." And I said, "Yeah, Voltron's kind of goofy looking."
Whatever. I say OG.
Yeah, it's classic.
It is. It's definitely classic, and it's the show has definitely stood the test of time and horrible reboots. So for it to still inspire people to, create this show is really says something.
Yeah. So John, why don't you tell us about what we're doing on YouTube these days?
What am I doing on YouTube these days?
Yeah. What are you and I doing on YouTube these days?
Well, we're putzing around playing video games we never played before and looking really bad at it.
Yeah, we're doing a new video series on the Rocket Punch YouTube.
Well, I'm looking slightly better than you playing it.
So. Look at this guy.
Well, the first episode for Gun Griffin for the Sega Saturn is out, and you can clearly see that JP has no idea what he's doing in the game, but I've got it completely covered.
Okay, well, I'll give you that.
Mm-hmm.
I did better at the second episode, which isn't out yet.
Okay.
Which will be out this next week.
That's up to debate, and we'll let the audience decide that.
Right. So this is up on the Rocket Punch YouTube channel. It's called The First Impressionists, where we take a first look at new video games, old video games, whatever, and we see if they're worth playing. So you can check us out on that, John. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can't. I'm a ghost.
Okay, so you can find John on the dark web.
You can find John if you have a PKE meter.
Wherever a child smiles, you'll find him. Wherever a metal band is playing, he'll be there.
I wish. That'd be great.
Wherever a man is cooking a bowl of udon, he'll be there.
Why would I be there for udon? I hate udon.
Wherever there's a bowl of ramen, he'll be there.
Or I'll just be at home.
Wherever a man is treating his very long hair, he'll be there.
Whenever a man is taking a very felonious dump, I won't.
He'll be there.
No, I won't. I won't be there.
Watching.
Don't.
He'll be watching.
No. I'm on Twitter. On Twitter at Tales Unsung, and that's it.
That's it? That's all? Okay.
No, I am not in your bathroom.
That's good. What are you doing in my bathroom, John?
Watching you poop, from what you tell me.
You can find me on Twitter at jpatrickauthor, and you can find me on the web at jpatrickallen.com, where you can find more information about my books, the Dead West series, and about any other projects that I'm working on. Rocket Punch Radio is a giant robot podcast fighting force designed to beat back the evil Lord Ennui and his army of dreadbots. You can join the Rocket Punch Corps by reviewing us wherever you listen to podcasts and checking us out at rocketpunchradio.com or on the Grown Ass Geeks Facebook group. Our theme song was composed and recorded by Brent Black at brentblacktunes.com. This podcast was produced by Samantha, say hello Samantha, and our artwork was created by Jay Garcia at Audio Visuals.
You didn't even give her time.
Twitter. What's that?
You didn't even give her time to say hi.
Well, she's not recording.
No.
I'm just saying, when you're mastering this podcast, Samantha, say hello.
Okay.
You can find us on Twitter at RocketPunchRDO and also on YouTube, where we post Let's Plays, podcast videos, reviews, unboxings, and more. John, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Good night.
Good night.